Hi, this is Billy Gould, and you're watching Bay Area Rocks.
You're watching Bay Area Rocks, and I'm here with Bill Gould.
Hi.
So let's talk about the bands that you've been in and the bands that you are in right now currently.
I guess I'm kind of in Faith No More right now because Faith No More kind of exists in a weird kind of way. So that's probably the one most people know about. But let's see. I've been in a lot of weird bands, small bands. I was in this band Brujeria that still plays. And I produced a lot of kind of weird bands too. And I have a little label and I release even weirder bands. And that's pretty much it.
Are you still playing with Jello also?
Oh, that's the other band I was in.
I'll remind you.
Yeah. I'm not, because actually when he started touring and the record came out, it was exactly when Faith No More started touring. So I couldn't do it. But I had a great time with him, actually. It was really a cool thing to do. I'm really glad I did it. Totally glad I did it.
Cool. Can you tell me about your new CD, The Talking Book?
I will, in fact. I have one in my pocket, which is yours after I flash this to the camera. This is something, actually, there's a guy in San Francisco who has a label called the Gigante Sound, and he does a lot of like experimental stuff and noisy stuff. And I've kind of over the years worked with him on different things and like doing some mixes on some of his stuff, and where we've gotten to know each other pretty well. And it came to a point where we just decided, why don't we try to do something together? And the way he works is really very abstract and very different than anything I've ever done. And I just kind of thought it'd be kind of a challenge for me to do. That's just not what I do. There's hardly any bass in it at all, and I'm a bass player. But it was a good challenge, and I think actually what we got out of it was pretty cool. And it was a very happy surprise because it was kind of confusing in the beginning. But I like it. I think it's kind of cool. And so we're going to play next week with Mike Patton. He has got a show at the Great American Music Hall, and I think it's on the 18th. So we're going to open up that show, which should be kind of actually a cool way to show what we do, because I think the people probably going to that show will kind of have an open mind to what we're doing. What we're kind of doing, it's not rock and roll at all. But it's pretty cool and very, very textural and cinematic, I guess is the word, visual.
And you're using it for a film score, or are you doing the...
We are. This is kind of film score stuff. I've been doing film scores lately. I've done a couple. There's a movie that's just finished from a Norwegian director called The Sequential Art, and it's about comics. It's a documentary, and I did the soundtrack to that. And I'm working on one now that's with a Macedonian director it's an animated film, and it doesn't have a title yet, but it's going to be finished in about a month. And that's going to be like going out to film festivals and stuff. So pretty cool things to do, I would say.
So Jared Blum is the person that you're...
Exactly. That's the guy from Gigante Sound. Exactly.
And how did you guys meet?
We were in front of Rosamundo one day on Haight Street. Has Hamburger Tuesday. And he was standing next to me in line, and we started talking. And he started telling me he did experimental stuff. And I actually, believe it or not, from when I was in high school, I was really into experimental music. Like, there were some bars in L.A., one called, I think it was called the Brave Dog, but I can't be sure if that was the name. There are a couple places where if you were like 17, 18 years old, you could pay $5 to get in, you get all the beer you could drink. And it was awesome. And super, super noise bands. I saw Cabaret Voltaire when they first came to the States. And I was really into more experimental, early industrial stuff. And I've just never had a chance to really play it because Faith No More wasn't that. And so I have a lot of old stuff, and I still like listen to stuff, experimental stuff, and I just thought it'd be a cool thing to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what bands? I know you have a label. Let's talk about your label. How did you start the label? What's it called? And who's on the label?
It's a label it's called Cool Era Records, and it started probably about the year after Faith No More broke up, and the circumstances were Brujeria was off their record deal, and they were free. And the singer, I went to high school with him, and he said, hey, why don't we just start a label? And this would be a perfect time to do it. And I didn't really want to do it, but he talked me into it. And we started putting out stuff. And what I really got interested in was international stuff, because with Faith No More, I toured a lot. And so I actually got a lot of really cool stuff. I got turned on to some amazing music that I had never even been aware of. And I was realizing, like, this, even bands that are really well known in other places that just can't even get released in the States. So that was kind of what I went into it with, and hooked up with some really cool people. And it's been over 10 years now, and it's hard to do a label, but I really like the people I work with, and most of the bands that I hook up with, for one thing, I dig the music and I get the music, and so we have a good communication there. And the other thing is they turn me on to things, and it helps me a lot. So it's a cool thing.
What bands are on your label?
Okay. There's a band in Seattle called Culture Shock that's been here a few times. They opened up for Gould here a couple of years ago. They're kind of an Eastern European, kind of gypsy influenced, but like a metal band. And they're really cool. There's a band called Flatbush that are a couple of brothers who immigrated from the Philippines that do super hardcore blast music. That's and it's in Tagalog, which sounds amazing with the music. There's a band called Dubiosa Collective that I'm about to put out in the next 2 months, and they're from Sarajevo, from Bosnia, and they're super positive, great guys, and they're totally making things happen on their own. They're really DIY, and so when I get involved with people like that, it totally makes me want to fight, and so we have a good relationship. Talking Book's going to be on my label, obviously, and Le Plebe are local, and they are too, and they're
hi, Alan.
These guys, and these guys, I've put out 3 things with them, and they're like one of my favorite bands of all time. In fact, I went to Antonio's baby shower yesterday.
Oh, cool.
So I consider them really good friends of mine. So
you've
those
been at all the shows, I've noticed.
Oh yeah, everyone I can anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very supportive. That's awesome. So tell me how you started playing bass and why you chose the bass and everything like that.
When I started, I was 12 years old, and what happened was I don't know why, but some guys I was in 8th grade. A couple guys in my class wanted to start a band, and one guy was taking guitar lessons, and another guy was a drummer. So the only thing open was bass. I figured it'd be easy and I could learn it really quickly.
Complex, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, the cool thing about it was I actually learned pretty quickly to a certain level where I could actually play in bands even when I wasn't very good. And that was the best thing because I started writing music when I didn't really know what I was doing. And that's how kind of I learned my language and how I play. So it was actually worked out really well.
And how about the producing and stuff like that? How did you...
The producing, I was with Faith No More, we were pretty DIY always. Like, we kind of wrote and arranged all the songs ourselves. And we always had, like, a little Porta studio and did arrangements. So that when we were in the studio, the way we looked at it was, the record company wanted to have a producer. And we wanted to be able to tell them what to do in a lot of ways. That was kind of our attitude. And so we tried to do a lot of arrangements on our own before we had to go in the studio so we didn't have to waste time and keep our costs down and stuff like that. And so I just kind of got into it that way. And when we'd be in the studio, I'd just ask a million questions. And it got to a point where we did our last album of the year. Rolly Mossyman came in and co-produced the record, and he did a lot of stuff in Pro Tools, and Pro Tools was kind of new at the time. And I just watched him the whole time. I was just fascinated by it. And when the band split up, that was just something that, when I wasn't playing music and I wasn't in a band, I still wanted to work with music, and that was a good way to do it.
Oh, cool. So this comes out when?
It comes out May 24th.
May 24th. So go check it out, and definitely go to Cool Arrow Records to see all that.
If you go to coolarrow.com, you can go on the Talking Book page. You click on the link of this picture, and there's files you can listen to, too. It's all streaming. So it's not rock and roll. If you go in there for that and listening to something like Faith No More, you're not going to hear it. But I like it. I think it's really cool.
I like it, too, actually, and it's definitely got a lot of texture, and definitely the music is pretty cool to listen. It's different. I like experimental music, so you got to check it out. And also go see you guys play.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Are you going to go on a tour with this, or? I
think so. This show kind of came up because I gave Mike Patton a copy of the CD just because I was meeting him somewhere, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And he called me back and was just like, "Wow, this is great." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And he said, "I've got a show with the Great American. You want to play on it?" And so we kind of had to get this together. I mean, it's one thing to record textural music and just make a record of it, but to actually do it live is a whole different thing. We had to kind of go back and figure out how we're going to do it because it's actually kind of complex, like the planning and organizing. And I think we figured it out. We're still kind of figuring it out, but I think by the showtime we'll do it, and that kind of gives us the kick in the butt to actually, tour it. So I think we will.
Is it going to just be you and Jared then, or?
It will. I mean, this guy Dominic Kramp, who's on the same label with Jared, is going to help us out on Great American because we just need the extra hands. But I think we're trying to figure out where both Jared and I can just do it.
What does the future have to hold for Bill Gould?
The future.
The future.
I never know how to answer that question. I think the present is pretty good. I'm happy with the present.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for your time, and
no problem.
Definitely go check out them. They're going to be playing at the Great American Music Hall. When is that again?
That's May 18th.
And
it might be the 17th,
yeah.
But I think it's the 18th.
And go to Cool Arrow Records.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy.